Chapter 10 Molly We have to go look for Yoshi, Molly said. It's not safe out there. Caleb crossed his arms. Not a good idea. Look at what those birds did, she pointed at Javi. His shirt hung in ribbons and the bandages from a first aid kit were strewn across his torso. Yoshi doesn't know what about them and he's been gone for hours. That means he's miles away and lost. It's too dangerous out there, Caleb said. We could get lost too. We'll figure something out. Molly's mind raced. The compasses didn't work, and the clouds were too thick to navigate by the sun. They couldn't even tell how soon night would fall, but she didn't dare mention that to Caleb. Maybe we can mark our path, like with breadcrumbs? Breadcrumbs? Oliver murmured. I'd rather eat them. Molly looked at him. Sorry, metaphorical breadcrumbs. Or we could build something taller than the trees, something we can see far away. The two inflatable slides stacked up would have been perfect, but one of them was growing more limp by the minute. Hanging from the wing, like an old rag doll, it had been torn when all the wreckage had come tumbling down. Everything was going wrong, including gravity. Molly and Oliver had heard the shouting and had just come out of the front emergency exit just in time to see it all. Javi suspended in mid-air, attacked by the flock of screeching birds, Kira and Akiko floating a few feet off the ground, along with the water bottles, survival gear, and everything else that wasn't nailed down. And Anna with that thing in her hands, the air pulsing and rippling around her. Anna still held the device, clinging to it like it was a winning lottery ticket. Kira stood next to her, drawing the symbols one by one. I'm not sure what you kids got up to while I was gone. Caleb spread his hands to encompass the strewn survival gear, Javi's wounds, the sagging side. But you made a mess. What we got up to was changing how gravity worked, Javi cried. And you're worried about a mess? Caleb gave Javi the same sarcastic look as when he'd first heard the story. Right. You found a toy that let you fly. Not fly, jump! Javi said. It turns down gravity somehow. But now it doesn't work anymore? Caleb said with a snort. That's convenient. Anna shrugged, handing the device over. Caleb stared at the symbols, gave a tired sigh, then tossed it back. He didn't notice how Akiko and Kira flinched when he touched it. Molly had to agree that the machine's sudden failure was a little too convenient. She wondered what Anna was up to. Whatever happened here, Caleb said, I'm not going to let you go off marching off into a jungle. Molly laughed. Let us go into the jungle? Caleb stood taller, his muscles bulging. You heard what I said. Who died and made you scoutmaster? Molly asked. He looked at her totally serious. About 500 people. The words hit like a punch in the stomach, and without thinking, Molly turned to Oliver and put an arm around him. Till now, no one had said it out loud. No one else on the plane had survived. Mr. Keating, the crew, all those other passengers, rows and rows of people had filed into the aircraft's countless seats, and now they were all gone, flung out into the jungle somewhere back there. No one spoke. Kira had even stopped drawing, sensing that something serious was being discussed. It's true, isn't it? Oliver said. They're all dead. Molly squeezed him. We don't really know what happened, Oliver. None of this makes sense. He pulled away, fists clenched. Anna said she saw them being thrown out. Molly glared at Anna, hoping she wouldn't mention the weird lightning they'd seen on the plane. If Oliver lost it now, the rest of Team Killbot might just fall apart. But it was Javi who spoke up first. The important thing right now is to find Yoshi. You're right, Molly said thankfully. Figuring out what happened can wait. Oliver looked like he wanted to say more, but he just shook his head and looked away. There was a moment of tense silence. Luckily, Caleb still wanted to argue. We're not going to find anyone in that jungle. It's pointless to try. Okay, Scoutmaster, Molly said. That's what your plan to help Yoshi is? Maybe if we made a sound, Caleb gave a shrug. Something he could hear from miles away, so he can find his own way back. Molly frowned. It wasn't a terrible idea. But if he's close enough to hear us, wouldn't his radio work? It could be broken. The plane was full of alarms, Javi said. They went off while it was crashing. We just need power to run them. Oliver wiped his nose with the back of his shirt sleeve. We've got plenty of flashlight batteries. We'll work on that, Anna said. And we won't make a mess, Caleb, we promise. But maybe we can scout around in the meantime just in case Yoshi's somewhere nearby and he's hurt. Caleb gave them all a long look, like he still thought they were up to no good. But finally he nodded, grabbed a knife and a flashlight from the open survival kit, and headed off into the underbrush. Kira went back to drawing, and Akiko picked up a flute she'd found in the wreckage. She began to play a soft, mournful tune. Molly looked at Javi and Anna and Oliver. Okay, team, what's the real plan? Javi glanced in the direction Caleb had gone. When I was up in the air, I could hear a waterfall off to the left of the plane. Yoshi was looking for water, Anna said. If he hears it, he'll go that way sooner or later. Molly shook her head. But he must be miles away by now, and Caleb's right. If his radio doesn't work, we'll never find him. You can't see more than a few feet in that jungle. Not from the ground, Anna held up the device. But from up in the treetops? Molly stared at her. So, why exactly did you tell Caleb it was broken? Yeah, Javi said. Way to make me look like a liar. But in serious situations, lying is okay, like not telling people when their haircut looks bad, or preventing dangerous technology from falling into the wrong hands. Anna hefted the device. There's no way Caleb understands how amazing this is. I mean, gravity is a law of nature, a fundamental force, and this thing turns it off like a light switch. So? Molly asked. If you just show him how it works, he'd have to believe you. But he thinks he's in charge. What's to stop him from taking it? Molly took a slow breath. Caleb was bigger than the rest of them, and willing to use force. She had a feeling. Maybe handing over an incredible and possibly dangerous machine wasn't such a great idea. What does it feel like, Oliver asked, when there's no gravity? Stand very still, Anna said, and twisted the outside of the device while pushing down onto two of the weird symbols scattered around its edge. The symbols glowed, and a heart ripple traveled through the air. Molly felt her insides shifting a little like she was in an elevator headed downward fast. Whoa, she said quietly. Javi was grinning. The girls held hands, and Oliver looked like he was about to puke. Then everything got much weirder. A gust of breeze passed through the jungle, and all 6 of them lifted a little into the air and wafted sideways, carried along like scraps of paper in the wind. Anna twisted the device again, and they dropped back down to earth, suddenly heaving and stumbling. Okay, Molly said as her body settled to earth. Just wow! I felt like I weighed nothing. Almost nothing. Anna pointed at the crumpled emergency door. After I turned gravity back on, that took about 6 seconds to fall. Do the math, Oliver. Oliver's eyes rolled up in his head. Falling stuff accelerates at 32 feet per second squared in normal gravity, and 6 times 32 is about 200, so it was going 200 feet a second when it hit, which means it averaged 100 feet per second if it started from a standstill, which means you threw it 600 feet into the air. Even Anna looked surprised at that. For a moment, no one made a sound. Molly had seen the door hit, heard it too. The crunch of an aircraft metal moving fast enough to squish a human like a bug. A little reminder that everything about this situation was seriously dangerous. So who made that thing? Javi finally said. And why was it on our plane? And is that what made us crash? Oliver added. Airplanes are designed to fly in normal gravity. Weird physics would totally mess up the airflow. Molly's mind was spinning again. At last they had a concrete clue about what was going on. But a device that changed the laws of physics was too much to process. Maybe there was more than one of these in the cargo hold. Maybe one of them malfunctioned. But that doesn't explain the top ripping open, Anna said. That wasn't weird gravity. It looked intentional. You mean evil, Oliver said softly. Molly swallowed. Evil was a pretty scary word to use, but it sure seemed like something had taken control of the plane, and it hadn't cared who got killed in the process. It still could have been the machine. Javi pointed at Kira's drawing of the symbols. When you turn that thing on, only 2 of the symbols glowed. What do all the other ones do? They all stared at the device. Anna's fingers lightly touched the symbols. I guess we could find out. No way, Oliver said, taking a step back. It's okay. Molly put a hand on Anna's shoulder. Now's not time for experimenting. Finding Yoshi is more important. I guess, Anna said with a sigh. But we can use it to fly, right? We head toward the water? Exactly, Molly said. You stay here, Oliver, and look after the girls, and get started on those alarms in case we get lost. Maybe Yoshi will hear them and make it back on his own. Sure, Oliver said, still eyeing the gravity device warily. Just watch out for those birds. Javi tugged at one of the tears in his shirt. Don't worry, we will. Molly nodded, remembering the shrieks cutting through the air. We should bring flares in case they're afraid of fire. Any other questions? Just one, Oliver said, pointing at the device. Who made that thing? They all stared at Molly as if expecting her to say something. She could only shrug. She had a feeling that whatever the answer was, they weren't going to find it any time soon.